Hey everyone, welcome back. I have some new Dollar Tree Easter DIYs. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Now let's jump right into the DIYs. For this DIY, I'm going to use 2 of these wooden shiplap signs from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to flip them over and pull off the twine hangers. They are just put on there with staples, so they pull off easily. Then I picked up 2 of these pieces of wood from Dollar Tree that are squares, and I mixed a little bit of paint, just some white acrylic paint with a little bit of water to kind of give this a whitewashed look. I added a little bit more. You can kind of just figure out how much you want to add depending on how much wood grain you want to show through. So I didn't want this to be too dark, and I wanted it to kind of match the 2 pieces of the shiplap signs that I had. So I wanted that wood grain to show through. So I just painted it on and wiped it off. And then once it was dry, I took one of the squares and I just hot glued that to one of the sides of one of the signs. And then I hot glued the other sign to the other side. And then I did the same thing with the other square on the opposite side to create a rectangle box. Once I did all that, I went ahead and reinforced the inside with a little bit of hot glue around the corners so that way everything would stay nicely. Then I wasn't thinking I needed a bottom to this, but then I decided that was probably a good idea. So you could just pick up another one of those wooden shiplap signs and put that on the bottom, but I didn't do that. So I had this little wooden sign from Dollar Tree already, but it was a little bit too long, so I just went ahead and scored it with an X-Acto knife and cut it off and then just hot glued it to the bottom. Now to make this a little bit more Eastery, I had some of these wooden bunnies left over from my previous projects, so I just went ahead and spaced them out onto each side of the signs and hot glued them down. You could use some hook and loop fastener and just put those on so that way you could take them off easily and you could interchange this for holidays. I just glued mine on because I didn't have any hook and loop fastener, but I think that would be a good idea so that way you could use this all year round, or you could stencil on this. You know, there's multiple things that you could do. It's basically just a shell for you to create whatever you want for whatever holiday or season it is. I went ahead and filled mine with some of these fabric carrots from Dollar Tree. You could fill it with flowers, anything you'd like. I love how it turned out. It's super cute for Easter and spring, and it is super simple to make. For this next DIY, I'm going to use one of these trellises from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to use some wire cutters and I'm going to cut off the bottom pieces that you would stick into the ground. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut off the top decorative piece as well. You can leave that on, it's up to you. I just wanted to use this middle section as a pattern for a basket. So if you want that decorative piece, you can leave it on or you can take it off. But I'm going to use some of this white nautical rope from Dollar Tree, and I just took off the tape on the ends of the nautical rope, and it does start to fray and come apart when you take off the tape. So make sure you have your hot glue handy and also some scissors so that way you can trim up the edges of those. I took one of the pieces and I started at the bottom and I just hot glued it around the bottom, and then I just wrapped the nautical rope around the wire form, and then when I got to the end of the rope, I would hot glue that end. And I just left it open in the middle. I ended up using 5 bunches of nautical rope to cover this to make it look like a basket. Once it was covered in nautical rope, I just used my scissors and I went around and trimmed it up along those edges, and I just used some hot glue to reinforce some pieces down. Then I took another piece of nautical rope, so this would be the 6th bunch that I used for this basket, and I took the edge and I just hot glued one side to the top of my basket and the other side to the top of the other side of the basket to create a handle, so that way I could use this to hang up, because this is going to be like a door hanger or a wall hanging that you can use for Easter. And basically this is done. You can fill it however you would like. You can use some florals from Dollar Tree. I'm using these spring florals. I think I had about 9 bunches of these in the different colors. They have purple and like a dark pink and some yellow. And then I just placed them inside the basket and manipulated them how I wanted them to sit. But you could use anything you'd like. You could add some Easter eggs to this to make it a little more Eastery. And then you can take them out, just leave it like this for spring. So it's up to you. A lot of things you can do with this. I think this would look really cute as a door hanger on your front door, or even just hang on your wall or on a mirror for spring. For this last DIY, I'm going to use these 3D wreath forms from Dollar Tree. There is a larger one and then there is a smaller one. I'm going to use one of each of both of those. And then I am going to take one of the bottom metal pieces that holds the rings together, and I'm just going to push down on that and pull it upwards. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other one, so that way I have 2 metal pieces on each one that are sticking out and upwards, so that way I can use that to connect these 2 spheres together. So I'm just going to use some zip ties, and I'm going to take those 2 metal long pieces that I did that to, and I'm just going to zip tie those 2 together to make sure that way they kind of hold while I am trying to open up these pieces. I went ahead and opened up the pieces and used some more zip ties to zip tie the top sphere to the bottom sphere, and it still kept closing on me. So I'm just gonna take the little metal circle pieces that come with the wreath forms, and on the bottom of the big one, I'm going to use that metal piece to hold these together, so that way the spheres stay open. And then I took another one of the metal pieces and I did the same thing to the smaller sphere on the top. And you just twist them, they're very pliable, and you just make them form to what you need to do to keep those spheres open. Then I took some more zip ties and I just went in through the middle 2 pieces to keep those connected, and so that way the top sphere didn't flop everywhere. I just used the zip ties to hold everything together. And then I took the bottom metal piece that stuck out and then the top metal piece that stuck out, and I bent those, and then I used some wire cutters to cut them off. And then I need this to stand up, so it doesn't stand up by itself. So I'm going to use one of these foam small wreath forms to make it stand up. I just used some hot glue and held it in place until it was stable enough to stand up on its own. Now, to cover up all of the ugliness, the metal pieces that are holding everything together, the zip ties, and the foam wreath form, I'm going to use some moss from Dollar Tree. For the foam wreath form, I just covered the very top of that and then a little bit on the inside of the ring. And then I am taking the moss and I am covering both spheres with all of the moss. So I'm going up those wire pieces with some hot glue, and then I am covering it with moss. Now, it would be a good idea to do this over another container because you're going to lose a lot of moss. I'm in my craft room, so I don't mind cleaning up this mess. But if you don't have a craft room, or you don't want to be as messy as me, then use a container and put everything inside of that, and then do this so that way it's a little bit easier to clean up afterwards. So I did the whole bottom sphere and then I moved on to the top, making sure to pay close attention and covering up those metal pieces in that middle for the zip ties so that you couldn't see anything and everything was covered up nicely. Now, if you haven't guessed yet, I am making a big bunny out of these two spheres. So for the ears, I'm going to use some of this wired twine from Dollar Tree. I just cut 2 pieces and eyeballed it to make both of them the same size, and then I just attached them to the top smaller sphere to form the ears. And then I covered up where they were attached to the sphere at with a little bit more moss and made sure it was hot glued down so that they stayed really nicely and didn't move around on me. Now, to give this a little bit more interest and to cover up the rest of the foam wreath form, I had some tulips and some lavender and some hydrangea bunches from Dollar Tree. I believe I had 9 bunches all together, and I'm just going to use some floral wire to wrap those flowers around the outer ring of the wreath to cover everything up. And I'm sorry you can't see this very well. I was having problems with my zoom on my camera. You can see I tried to fix it there, but it just wasn't working. But I just added a flower and attached it with the wire and then just kept adding flowers. I've done this before on my channel, making wreaths and things like that. Actually, I believe in my last video I did that. So if you need a tutorial, you can check out my last video. But I love how this bunny turned out. It's super cute, perfect for Easter and spring. You can set it on top of a planter outside in your front yard. Make sure that you spray it with some hairspray or some type of sealer to keep all of the moss on. But I think it is beautiful for spring. Thank you all so much for watching today. If you liked this video and you want to keep seeing more videos like this, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you got through this video all the way through, leave me a tulip emoji down below because spring and Easter are right around the corner. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.